arrived. I just got off the plane, just arrived back. We were up all night, through the night, fortunately, keeping government open, among other things. But we also passed a continuing resolution, a mini budget, if you will, that, there's things in it that are good for our region right here. Before we get into fishing, I just thought I'd mention.
Please do.
Pretty hot news. Literally just signed maybe an hour or two ago into law. But one of the things that's important is, I've met with officials, and Cheryl Bartlett with the Greater New Bedford Community Health Center, and they were on the verge of running out of money, and we're able to fund community health centers, including Greater New Bedford, and that's important for so many people that utilize that.
Of course it is.
Also, there was $6 billion more to fight the opioid epidemic, something I've been involved with for, since I was a district attorney going forward to my new job, and in such an important area in our region. And also, in terms of the economic growth and jobs and what, we're trying to develop in the city, good news on the production tax credit. What that will do, and really there was a setback in the recent tax bill that went through where they truncated the effect of that. Now we've extended the production tax credit, and that's very important for the continued development of offshore winds and, the turbines and obviously the terminal in New Bedford. So some good news for change coming out of Washington, and some good things that have been going on, among others. So I just thought, since that is so fresh with the news, I'd share it with you and your listeners.
No, I appreciate that. We're speaking with Congressman William Keating, our congressman here, who's just back from Washington. Yeah, you worked all night, but it turned out to be worth it, correct?
It is. I think it was too much of a price tag, frankly, on the bill, but we're not in control of everything. But what was important, we're able to get a lot of important things, more than that I just mentioned, but those three things are very important for New Bedford going forward, and there's a lot going on in New Bedford that I think we'll be able to take advantage and deal with the crisis that we have in opioids, make sure we have health access, affordable health access through our community health center, and obviously the economic development moving forward on offshore wind. So some good things that will help our area.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. We're particularly focused here on the opioid crisis, so we know we appreciate that. We know you're coming at it from a law enforcement background, which is very important, but also the public health issue.
It's interesting, Chris. In the early 2000s, one of the jobs, a district attorney is, under Massachusetts law, is to see when there's a death, that there's no foul play involved. So you actually investigate it. What we found way back then, and we set up, I think, the earliest task force in the entire state. But what we found out then was there's no criminal background to the people that were dying. And as we investigated, we learned that they were going from prescription drug coverage to addiction and more affordable heroin, and the very potent in the Northeast. And we saw at that stage what was occurring. And now, obviously, and sadly, it's an epidemic declared by the Center for Disease Control. And we're losing over 170 people a day in this country. So
staggering.
It's important to get resources in place, both from the healthcare side, and that's one thing the Community Health Center will be helpful with, but also just on prevention programs and treatment. And so that was a big number to address that. Not enough, frankly, for the type of crisis we have, but certainly something that will really help our region, because we have things in place already. And a lot of these funds will, I think, inordinately favor when you've got a program up and running and moving forward. So we're continuing on that, and they're doing a great job in New Bedford on the law enforcement side with the police and with fire and emergency services. Hopefully we can turn the corner on this. I think last month was the first time since this crisis occurred where most of the deaths weren't attributable to the prescription of drugs first.
Right.
So I think the medical community, the prescribers, are learning and changing the way they do things. So I'm glad you're focusing on that in your program, because, in this country, over 170 people a day, that's just an awful toll.
No, it's a staggering number of people. We're speaking with Congressman William Keating. So the reason we had you in here, having you on the program, is to discuss the what development you've reached or looking to reach, and some of the positive news you think you may have with NOAA and the fishing industry.
Well, just a couple of weeks ago, there's a new administrator in our region for NOAA and Mike Pentony. And Mike Pentony and I met this week. I requested them, as soon as he was appointed, the opportunity to sit down with him. He was great. He came to D.C. and we sat down and talked for over an hour. And we talked about general issues, but really focused. I wanted to focus on what was going on in New Bedford in particular. And just for your listeners, it's important to understand there's like 3 different playing fields all occurring at the same time. The first one is the playing field dealing with legal issues, and it's the criminal court issue that there's still an appeal on, and that's that has to be dealt with first. The second thing in that field is the administrative law actions by NOAA and the regulators that way. And then the second playing field is actually getting an operation plan for the sector. The third one being, when those things are all resolved, what will be left, what after the courts decide, after they act, and how will NOAA deal with the permits going forward. And that has to happen after the other 2 things. And one of the things we really focused on is, trying to get a sense of urgency and cooperation between NOAA and the sector in getting that operation plan in place, because we don't have control over the timetable of the courts.
Correct.
Or what's happening legally.
And you can't influence
but we do have control over that second thing. So we want to make sure we're speeding this process up as much as we can. So hopefully they'll meet with some success in getting a plan approved, and that part can be out of the way as we go forward.
Well, this is excellent. We're speaking with Congressman Keating. He's discussing the NOAA meeting he just had, because there's been a brand new administrator there. How important, Congressman, is it do you think to hit the ground running with this new administrator?
Well, he's very knowledgeable. He's been around. So the good news is he doesn't need any schooling on this. But what's really important is communications.
Okay.
My office, since the criminal case broke with Carlos Rafael, we've been in contact on a weekly basis with NOAA, because we knew there'd be repercussions through the legal system. And their communication with us has been excellent. So it's important. They're not going to do everything we want them to do, maybe.
Right.
But that communication is critical. And there's things that we can work on together. There's things we can try and create a sense of urgency on. They'll get people back to work quicker when that time comes. And that's where we're at. But I think it's important. There's a lot of, I think, confusion in the public as to what we're facing. So that's why I try to make it, at least digestible, saying there's 3 different playing fields, and 2 of them have to be done and completed before we get to the other.
And just so people understand, you literally, it's another branch of government. You're in the legislature,
right.
and they're in the
we don't
judicial.
have control over it,
right?
But certainly, I've always viewed our role as being one that's a facilitator, looking for where there's potential roadblocks, and trying to break those down ahead of time, because these are people's jobs, and this is income to our area. And I try to go through life becoming a little wise about you can't control. Don't worry about the things you can't control.
Right.
But the things you can control, concentrate on them and get them done. So it was a great meeting. We're very lucky to have someone that doesn't have to. There's no learning curve with him in terms of what the issues are, and that's an important thing.
We're speaking with Congressman William Keating, our congressman here, and so you feel optimistic about it, and feel like things are at least moving in the right direction.
Well, I think that we should. This week, I know that the sector met with NOAA, and they're moving forward, hopefully getting that part that we can control, getting an operation plan in place and approved. And so we're going to follow that up, try and see what we can do to urge them along that route as quickly as possible. So, and then the courts will make their decision when they can. I mean, people have rights, and Carlos Rafael did file an appeal, so that stays a lot of action there.
It absolutely does. Well, Congressman, I know you have to run, and I really appreciate you making time for our audience this morning here on WBSM. And, of course, for those people who are just catching this, we'll put this up on our YouTube channel as well, so we'll have you up there as well, Congressman, people who didn't catch the whole interview.
Well, thanks for your interest in on the fishing issue and what's going on economically and the opioid issue. So I look forward to talking with you again.
Thank you so much, Congressman. I look forward to speaking with you on a regular basis. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye now. All right. Hey, folks, that was Congressman Keating. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll take a very quick break, and when we come back, I'll go right to the phones. 508-996-0500.